This gentleman, Paul, is one of my heroes because many, many years ago, in fact, the last time we saw each other was many, many years ago, he was a regular award winner as one of the best advisors in Britain. And he's a very modest guy, but he's an absolutely brilliant advisor. So I think a round of applause, and for all the advisors in the room, because you need them. I need them. Thank you. So it's awesome to be in Chesterfield. Mind you, at my age, it's awesome to be anywhere, really. But it is awesome to be in Chesterfield because I'm doing this show. This is like Bob Dylan's on a never-ending tour, and Elton John has just announced 300 dates for his never-ending farewell tour, and I'm on a tour of doing these hour shows. For as long as I can. I hope it lasts for an awful long time. And just to clarify a few things before I do my little show. The first thing is that you've got my card on the table. Basically you can follow me on Twitter. There's YouTube videos, there's my website. And everything, like this talk, is free. So I'm not selling anything at all. I'm really just trying to condense into an hour 30 years of practical experience of running my own businesses, but that's not really important. What is important is the 20 years of actually seeing how we can help everybody survive and thrive, starting up and running their own businesses. And I've managed to get that from research, and Nigel is in the room, and Nigel's been involved in a lot of that research for many years. And also I'll be introducing you to a lot of famous friends that I have that run businesses, and a lot of people that are not famous, but are, I think, pretty good role models to actually see what they've done in order to start up and run their business. So do get in touch with me, do contact me on any way that you actually want, and everything there is free, so you don't need to take any notes particularly. When I get to the last part of like my three-act show, I'll give you 4 futuristic lessons which, looking forward, might help you in your businesses, if you like. At that point, you might have some questions. Do write them down, and I'll pick up and I'll try and answer in that last part any questions you've written down. I won't be checking your spelling or anything else. Just write down a question, and I'll try and include it. And any that we haven't dealt with by the end, then Nigel, Paul, and I will try and answer. But I'll try and incorporate your questions in. And the last thing I do before I do start, because you really want me to start, I know, but is to get to know you a little bit so that some of the things I say are a bit useful. I'm not going to embarrass anybody, but could you just tell me if there are any people in the room that are thinking of starting a business but aren't really sure yet whether they do want to or don't want to, or won't? Okay, so we've got 2 or 3. Would any of you like to volunteer what kind of business you're thinking of? No? Doesn't matter if you don't? Okay, so we've got 3 or 4 people that are thinking about it. Have we got any people that are really in the preparing stage? You know, they're going to run their own business, but they're really just putting everything together and about to do it. Okay, great. Any of you be willing to say what kind of business you're looking towards doing?
I'm looking at doing freelance security work after being made redundant because there's a big demand for it, and then selling my artwork online.
Great.
I've done as a hobby.
Lovely. Security is a fantastic market, and one of the great things about it is if you've been doing that professionally anyway, it's one of the best things that we say. Do something that you know the kind of people that use that service, is a good way to start off any freelance. And I will, all the way from Scarborough, I will be able to give you a stick of rock, Scarborough rock, for answering my question. Thank you very much indeed, really appreciate it. Lovely. And how many people have we got that are, have started their business? So let's say within the last 3 months or so, 4 months, something like that. Oh, the wonderful palettes. Yeah, great. Okay, fantastic. So, understand that, yes?
Commercial photography.
Great, okay. How's it going?
Slowly.
Okay. Yeah. One of the things I always think is that you always need to half the amount of time you think it'll well, half the income and double the time in order to actually start making some income. A lot of people, I'm one of them, it took me 18 months, I don't want to frighten anybody, but it took me 18 months before I really started making anything reasonable at all. But it's about getting in there and getting in there doing it, so that's great. Thank you, and I think you should have a stick of rock, don't you? Everybody agree with that, yeah? Absolutely. There we go, sir.
Thank you very much.
Great. And how many people are beyond the 4 months stage and are running the businesses? So that's a small number, and I know Sue and I know Nigel, so and I know your work as well. In actual fact, I think you deserve something a little bit even special. I went fishing this morning before I left Scarborough, and I managed to get a milk chocolate fish because you do such good work with that training, and I hope lots of people will enjoy that afterwards. Right. So what I'm going to do then is to actually go through something like 70 tips that were in a book called Freedom from Bosses Forever. Now that looks like a self-help book, doesn't it? It's packaged to look like a self-help book, but it's really a satire. It's every character in it is fictional apart from me, but there are 70 real business tips that we've found out over something like 20 years within it. And so you don't need to buy the book. They will be scattered around in my little talk. Some of you may have heard of Microbiz Matters Day. And basically, everything I do is to support micro-businesses in the UK. A micro-business is naught, self-employed, and 70% of us are self-employed, no employees at all. There's 5.5 million from naught to 9 employees, and that's a micro-business. And 95% of all businesses are micro-businesses. But, and you might think that this talk is a little bit anti-establishment. Some people actually think it's a little anti-American. But in actual fact, very few people, especially government and authorities, are that interested in micro-business owners between 0 and 9 employees. And so I've spent my life working with lots of colleagues to see what we can do to help people survive and thrive in their own business. And every year, on the second Friday of the year, we have Microbiz Matters Day. And hundreds, it doesn't cost anything, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people join in online and just give a little bit of time to help another micro-business owner. It's as simple as that. And we also have 8 hours of free learning sessions from lots of people that are really useful. So remember that. I'm very proud to have founded that. And the other thing I'd like to clarify is I'm not a consultant, an advisor, a coach. I saw somebody from the IAB, my daughter's in the IAB, and the IAB, which is the International Association of Bookkeepers, I was really proud. They gave me a Lifetime Achievement Award for Enterprise, which was absolutely fantastic. Fantastic organisation. All of the people in the room that are helping micro-business owners, I'm your biggest fan, and everybody needs that help because we can't possibly be good enough at everything. There must be other people that can actually help to surround yourself by those people. So that's me, that's what we're going to do, and we can start our show. And it started in 96, that's 1996, any of you that think I look very old. And in 1996, picture the scene, I'd been running my business with my fantastic business partner, Claire Francis, for something like 10 years. And I'm in this office in Bedfordshire, Buckinghamshire. And nice office. We had about 5 people, 3 freelancers, 2 people we actually employed, working in these nice offices in this farmer's grounds, and barns had been created into little work office units. Absolutely lovely place. And we'd been running our business there, and frankly, I wasn't in the least interested, even though in some of the barns there were some other micro businesses like we were. I wasn't interested in micro businesses, small business owners at all. All our clients were large companies, and we were either providing marketing or what we called HRD, human resource development and training kind of things to large organizations. But we were also getting involved into lots of things with government as well, because they'd heard of our reputation. It was going very well. And I know it sounds absolutely strange, but of course in those days, even email wasn't that prevalent. There were still things like fax machines, and we actually had, 20% of all people don't use a telephone at all now, yeah? But we had a little bank of telephones in the middle, and at those telephones was a lady called Isolde. Now Isolde was one of those people that, very similar to my wife, I actually found out she came from the same school as my wife did, and there must be lots of people that came from that school that have the view, especially men, are not very intelligent and they've always done something wrong. Now that was Isolde, and so she was totally capable of answering any of our clients' questions, anything at all. But if she thought that the telephone rang and somebody was going to tell me off, or say I was an idiot, she delighted in shouting across the room, "Tony, it's for you." Well, this was one such time that it actually happened. So, "Tony, it's for you" meant, "What have you done this time?" Yeah. And I answered the phone, and it was a leading academic, probably our top academic in Britain at that time, who specialized in looking at small business survival rates. Yeah. About how many startups start up and then actually fail within the first year, then after 3 years, then after 5 years, and what can be done to actually improve the survival rate. And I'd just done a presentation at the CBI, and I'd launched, as part of a government scheme, some what they called competencies. In other words, these are the things you need to know in order to successfully start up your own business. And this leading academic said to me, "What do you base these skills on, these business planning?" I said, "Well, we got all of the top experts we didn't get him, unfortunately. We got all of the top experts in the country around the room, etc., and we did it. And we created these business planning, how to put your best business plan together and how to succeed and increase the rate." And he said, "It won't." He said, "You've got no evidence at all to show that business planning makes any difference to survival rate." And I said, "But what about that? Fail to plan is plan to fail. Everybody knows that. It's common knowledge." He said, "Well, it's wrong. Your information is totally wrong." And so I then started explaining some of the other things that he did, that we'd done. I said, "Well, it is disgusting. You must agree. We must do something about the fact that 4 in 5 startups don't get past the first year." I don't know if anybody else has heard that statistic. Only 20% will survive after year 1. And he said that's totally wrong as well. And that created my motivation for the next 20 years to actually find out what was myths, what was true, and more importantly, what the heck we could do to actually improve the survive and thrive rate. So people say that anger isn't a good emotion, but I was absolutely furious that I'd stood up, done all these kind of things, and well, really, it was not based on significantly good information. So, coming right forward to today, I'm now known for this particular knowledge, which I tweet out every single day. A bit boring for you if you start following me, but the reason I do it is because this has been proven by the 20 years of work that we've done, lots of us. That's why I say it's a cast of thousands and small business owners, and this is it. And basically it says that if you're going to start up, one, ask for help from a business owner, particularly if you can, somebody who knows about the kind of customers that you're looking to get. Does that make sense? In other words, they may not be supplying the same service as you, yeah, but they know what the pain points, if you like, or the things that your customers may actually buy. So the first thing is ask a business owner. The second thing, and this increases the rate, and this is the really good news, it increases the rate from something like 50%, it was never as bad as those American figures that I've just told you, like only 20%, but 50% surviving, yeah, to 85% surviving after 3 years if you test trade. Now, does anybody know what test trading is? Okay. Well, I was looking last night about 1 o'clock this morning. I co-founded Microbiz Matters Day with a wonderful lady I'll introduce to you later on called Tina Bowden. And Tina is saying that after 30 years of self-employment, this is the absolutely worst time she's ever had in 30 years. But like all of us, we always feel as though we're on a continual startup. Does that make sense? We're always trying something new because we actually love being in what I call the enterprise zone. We don't ever want to go back to a job, if you like. So we'll do anything. So we're constantly starting up. Well, she actually got some work as an interim for a bed and breakfast owner that was having a lot of illness and needed to go away and various things. And so Tina actually stood in for this person. And her test trading was over a period of 3 or 4 months where she actually tried to see if she could get other bed and breakfast owners to pay her a daily rate, to come into their bed and breakfast, yeah, to actually look after it. Last night, and the reason I was looking at it early this morning, she actually launched on social media the B&B Keeper brand. It's got a little B, yeah? But that actually came from 3 months of actually finding where the customers were and what they actually wanted in that service. Does that make sense? So, for example, if you take, let's say you're designing an app, or you're doing something with technology of any kind, so it can be a little piece of software, you don't develop it to the point where it's all developed. You get it to the point where it can actually be described in a photograph or something so that you can actually start testing whether people actually need it. And do that with anything. It's like, you know, don't open a shop before you've actually put the goods out on a market stall on eBay. And you know, seriously, in other words, you're testing all the time before you invest any money. And you do it as for as long as you need to do. Because we often say the business idea often that you think is going to be good, when you start test trading it, you actually find there's a better thing that you could actually be doing, or people want something different. Now that is the real killer one, if you like, that test trading. The next thing is bootstrap, don't borrow. The reason that you get the majority of failures are either we haven't got enough customers, we haven't got enough income coming in, but the main reason for the failure is cash flow. And the main reason for that is debt. And government and the corporates and the financial services industry, even the banks, are selling you loans all the time because that's how they make their money. Everybody is selling you a loan, and the best thing to do for as long as you possibly can is bootstrapping. And if you haven't heard that phrase, then bootstrapping just means pulling yourself up by your bootstraps using friends, family, resources, remortgaging even, but give yourself the majority of time that nobody, like an investor or an angel or somebody's got a loan that's actually repayable immediately, has put that extra burden on you, because you've got a lot to worry about, a lot of things to do, and these are the things that are making the difference between 85% surviving after 3 years, yeah, and 50%. So it's a big difference. 50% of you will survive with a loan, probably, but you know, the majority of businesses that I'm talking about, that I see every day, and I see hundreds, and I'm in groups like this, that actually succeed have not put that burden of debt around them at startup stage. The other thing is build multiple income streams. However good your idea is, however good, I mean, this is just absolutely wonderful, but look at different streams that you can do. So if you're selling face-to-face at the moment, then look at what you can get from an online stream. Look at what you can get by being in somebody else's exhibition. Look at what you can do by having a little spot in somebody's shop. Have a look at what you can do in exhibiting at big events where the kind of people that like your products and services are. Find as many different income streams, because we're absolutely certain, and it's happened to me many, many times, income streams dry up at different points. You often don't even know why it's actually happened. But if you've got other income streams, then you're able to ride out the future. So you're constantly looking for new income streams. And lastly, Tina's remark, which you'll always remember, and her remark is, don't work with tossers. And what she means with that, heck, it's your own business, yeah? You better enjoy it, because you're going to be working really hard. Everybody loves the freedom of being their own boss, but so make sure that you're not working with people that are dragging you down, because you just can't afford to. Now, the next bit is regarded as anti-American and anti-establishment by me, because I say, ditch the get-rich-quick videos. And the reason I do that is to say that I'm a self-help junkie myself, so I mean, I read it, I use it, but it's the problem of the amount of importance that is placed on mindset. This is not a dreaming big, planning. You need a route map of where you're going. You need to know what your costs are. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a plan of where you're actually going, but it is not a planning, thinking, dreaming, mindset type thing. It's a learning by doing. It is about hard work, actioning things all the time. And that's the only reason I say ditch the get rich. Of course you need the mindfulness, and of course you need the yoga, and of course we all need all these kind of good things to help us. It's just about the one thing you all are, if you're involved in your own business, is time poor. You've got very little time, and so you've got to focus it on delighting and getting new customers and managing the cash flow. And it's a day-to-day thing. Hard work, but enjoyable. So that's it. I could walk away now because I've told you everything that I now believe. And I say this to everybody every day. And fortunately, you know you're on the right track in the thousands and thousands. I've got 20,000 followers on Twitter. And the thousands and thousands of times in a year that those two particular tweets are retweeted by micro business owners. So let's just have a look at a few of these kind of mindset mayhem ones. Just because I am in the lucky position from where I've been to actually realize the, what can I call it, the manipulative side of mindset mayhem, making an awful lot of people an awful lot of money, but not actually creating the benefit for the people that are actually going to the seminars, buying the books, and actually following it all. So I've dealt with the first ones. These are all slogans you'll see every day. It's the will, not the skill. Yeah, back to mindset, that the know-how doesn't, but it's the opposite way around. In actual fact, learning by doing how to delight your customers, how to get new customers, yeah, how to be talking to other people that might be prospective customers, how to ask the right questions, how to do if you then I to make a deal, yeah, with people. Those are skills that will help you build your business. Yeah? It is the skill that's the most important thing, because at the end of the day, your customers being delighted and saying to somebody else, they're fantastic. That's the advantage we've got. We're all individuals. If we've got those interpersonal skills, we can do something the corporates just can't do. People buy us as part of the business. Yeah? So the skills are really important, and you learn those by doing. You can't learn them by actually, you can learn some of them, but you learn by doing.
Excuse me, can I have a photograph?
Yeah, absolutely. You can do anything you like, absolutely. And feed your mind with success. Well, that's important. Of course it's important. And somebody like me does, you know, I am a self-help junkie. I read all this kind of stuff. But I'm going to introduce you to lots of people by 12 o'clock. I can honestly say in the 20 years that I've been interviewing successful micro-business owners, and many of them have started off micro-business and have gone up to build large businesses, I haven't actually found any one of them that puts any of their success down to a particular seminar, a particular speaker, or a particular self-help book. So they're all important, it's all good stuff, but that feed your mind with success, a lot of that time is better spent out looking for customers and talking to people. Surround yourself with 5 people. There's a guy called Jim Rohn that many of you may have heard of, and that was the bit that I just didn't like, and a guy called Tony Robbins actually worked for this guy, Jim Rohn, and he actually took it to the point of saying that if you've got to get divorced, you know, then get divorced, because you can't afford, you'll never build a big business if you haven't got the 5 people around you the most of the time being the one that have got the success mindset and going forward. I think it's really important not to surround yourself with tossers, not to be brought down, if you like. But I think that kind of advice, which is believed all over the world, again, it's not proven by any research that Nigel or anybody else has done. I'll talk about the you become what you believe. You need an exit strategy. In actual fact, most micro-business owners actually do get to the point, and this is the really good news, where they're very, very happy controlling their own destiny and having their life built around their business. And that's the really good, you know, the figures are incredible. The difference between employed people, yeah, and between micro-biz owners in happiness. Poor, you know, we're all poor in comparison. You know, we're in the last 20 years, we're actually earning 40% less than our equivalents in the same kind of job or role in an employed position. And our actual earnings are 20% less than they were 10 years ago. So we may be slightly poorer as a result of it, but there's no doubt about it. The happiness statistics are absolutely fantastic. And so I've not met a micro-business owner, even ones that have built massive empires, that's ever gone in with an exit strategy. the business, they love it. They actually love having their own business, and tremendous loyalty to the people that they've got involved in it as well. Having a mentor is a good idea. We always suggest get one that's been a business owner so that they actually know what you're going through, because it does help. Of course, have a mentor. A pitch deck, well, I hope I've persuaded you not to pitch for investors, certainly for a few years, if you like, until you've got a model that's absolutely clear. Investors mess around with your businesses, and those bad figures, that's 20% that fail, by the way, 20%, only 20% that succeed, 80% that fail, that is investment-backed businesses. Yeah, that's because, you know, somebody's come in with a chunk of money for a stake in your business, and all those people are just playing a gambling game with maybe 10 things they've put an investment in, and one of them may become the next Amazon, or does that make sense? But that's playing with your life. So, and big goals to scare you. Goal setting is not all it's cracked up to be. And the reason I suddenly realized when that call came in from the academic that in the 10 years I'd been running my own business, that I hadn't actually seen any of those things come true that people say as slogans, is because 12 years before that, I'd been there. I'm just in that little middle bit. I don't know if you can see it near the bottom. I'm speaking to 15,000 Amway business owners at the NEC in Birmingham. The next year, I was speaking to 10,000 in the morning and 10,000 in the afternoon. 20,000 people. In those days, multi-level marketing was 40% of the whole direct selling industry. I was vice chairman of the direct selling industry, and I was chairman for Ireland. Today, multi-level marketing is 100%. So even companies like Avon and Tupperware and various things have moved over to multi-level marketing. The big difference between an Amway and a Herbalife and one or two of the biggest multi-level marketing companies and an Avon, a Tupperware, or an Ann Summers party is that very little actually goes to retail customers. People build their incomes, if you like, out of selling to other people in the group or stockpiling. The figures are just not good. Mumsnet was right last week. They did a documentary with the BBC to say that they wouldn't accept from those certain multi-level marketing companies any adverts anymore. Now, the reason I'm not criticizing that, the guy there who founded it is one of my favorite people, one of the best, well, he is the best speaker I've ever come across. I had a fantastic time at Amway, but I would say that the figures just don't stack up if you're looking to build a full-time income. If you're only looking to make it another little income stream, go ahead. Use any of these kind of things. But you're talking about 0.1% that are actually feeding the mind, surrounding themselves with 5 people. Or in his major speech was always about not giving people a hand out, giving them a hand up, and all those kind of mindset things that the industry talks about. The numbers aren't very good at all. So use direct selling as a way of supplementing your income, but don't put all of your effort into format. And of course, that's a £130 billion worldwide phenomenon, is direct selling. The franchise industry is 3 to 4 times bigger than that, you know, from the McDonald's to whatever. Again, I think you've got to decide, is it worth it in terms of format business as to what you could do in your own business yourself? Does that make sense? And the figures are much, much better in franchising because the format is there, But the majority of people I know that have started and run their own business, and the reason I think franchises have so much difficulty in recruiting people to put in the large investments they need, is because a lot of things, like for example our lovely catering that we've got outside and various things, people can actually do something better than some of the franchises, if you like, and enjoy it more, because it can seem a bit like a job being in a franchising. And the reason I put that slide up is that the message I've just done won't be recorded in the video highlights, because these are very, very powerful people. That one up there is me with ex-President Gerald Ford at the Bob Hope Classic that Amway sponsored. The top right picture is the best boss I ever had, and that's Dick DeVos, who is the son of the co-founder. Dick DeVos is married to Betsy DeVos, who's already up there. She's Trump's Secretary of State for Education. Now, I was often bussing around people from the American government to talk to us and the staff, including Alexander Haig, who was head of security, if you like. And Betsy DeVos's father created Prince Manufacturing, another multi-billionaire. Rich DeVos's family, the 45th richest family in the world. And as you know, the top 50 families are now earning the equivalent of half of the wealth of the poorest people in the world. So this is these messages are coming from very, very strong, very, very powerful people. Betsy DeVos's brother, Eric Prince, he was the bloke that founded mercenary armies. And, but he's advised every every president as well on security arrangements in Iraq and all the various things. So these people are very, very powerful, but it's why I suggest, with all of this that's going on, all these people that I like, all these speakers that I admire, all of this huge self-help industry, I actually think you're better to ask a business owner who might have seen your customers and spend time with them than with all of this. And I'll just give you a couple of reasons why not. You won't find these at the Think and Grow Rich Academy, but Trump followed a guy called Norman Vincent Peale. And Norman Vincent Peale wrote The Science of Positive Thinking, and has written many books based on this mindset stuff. And what everybody is actually doing is they are recycling stuff that was created in the 1910s from the New Thought movement in America, and it just gets recycled. So, for example, have you heard a book called The Secret? So, and it's a fantastic documentary, but The Secret documentary actually pulled out all the people that I've just shown their books of, because funnily enough, all those people had the secret that Rhonda Byrne discovered, if you like. And it's based on the law of positive attraction that a guy called William Wallace Wattles and Napoleon Hill a bit later created, which is if you think of something, then it will actually come to you. You can attract it. It's like a positive magnet. It's like, yeah, does that make sense? And in some ways, this can also be cruel, because Rhonda Byrne actually said that people that had a tsunami must have been like giving tsunami thoughts out in order to get the tsunami back on them. If you don't think about things like debt, or how you can get out of debt even, because just thinking about debt will bring more debt onto you. So you put a $100,000 note or whatever on the ceiling, and you concentrate on that, and it will come back to you. All of these things may happen, but just remember, the one who is the main name, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, that created all of this, spent 20 years on the run from state to state. He was something like 50 when he actually wrote the first best-selling book based on this whole theory. And it was all based on the fact that Andrew Carnegie had given him the names of some people, including Ford, that were successful people that he could go and interview, and they would give him the secrets of success, etc. It took him 20 years to publish those findings, and in actual fact, nobody's actually been able to prove that he either met Andrew Carnegie or any of the people were actually interviewed from. Apparently there was a fire and all those documents actually disappeared. So all I'm saying is that all of this stuff may be based on something, but I do take my hat off to one thing Napoleon Hill did. His best scam that he ran away was he got like apprentices to a school to build motor cars, yeah, that then he sold to another company that bought all the companies. So you got the kids paying to come to the school to learn how to build new motor cars, and the motor cars, he learned, well, they're absolutely fantastic. Apparently the cars weren't very good though, and that's why he had to run away from that state. What I would say to you is, if you're interested in this, there is a lot of things, and you don't believe me, there's a huge wealth of work to actually show that maybe, just maybe, we shouldn't give it all the attention we do. But we all need a fillip. We all need to go and see a motivational speaker and get all these things. We all need to, you know, improve our mind, and positive thinking is obviously good. We don't want to be negative. But there are some fantastic people around that have actually explained what works and what doesn't work, what is actual psychology and what is pseudoscience, or some people call it psychobabble. So that's just a few of those kind of things. Oliver Burkeman actually makes a point, which I think is really important, is that most psychologists recognize that it's how we react to things that's important, not as actually getting so screwed up about thinking things ourselves. Yeah? Concentrating on the I isn't necessarily a good thing. And there have been a number of studies. For example, they believe that in '96, when all those climbers got killed on Everest and didn't actually turn back, because there's a certain time that you should turn back from near the top if you can't get down, was actually, climbers call it summit fever, but they call it actually, the goal became so important that common sense didn't take over. In actual fact, you're actually better striving for a goal than you are reaching a goal. I know it's a strange kind of thing, but it's the striving that actually moves you forward. And too much concentration on the ego is not necessarily a good thing. There was also, on goal setting, there was the famous, that you've probably heard of, where in 1953, at Yale, they actually took a survey on graduates that actually made goals for their future and their future success. And they actually found that 3% actually that made goals actually earned all the money that the other 97% that hadn't made any success goals. The only trouble with that and the methodology was that it didn't happen. It's in every single one of those people's books. They always quote it as the importance of goal setting. But Yale and everybody has also confirmed it never happened. And so goal setting and all these things are good, they're all useful, but they're not as useful as people like him. Because the time before that Isolde picked up the phone and handed me the phone, believing that I was in trouble again, she said, "It's Alan Sugar." And she knew that would be. And I started thinking about my dad, who'd started his business because of ill health in the selling pallets business. I started to think about the time I'd spent with Alan Sugar as a client and actually seen him in action and what he was doing. I started thinking about with Claire and with Nigel and other people we met over the next 20 years, all the people that were successful and why they were successful and what they'd done and how they'd done it. And we found out that it's actually very, very simple indeed. It's not science, it's not quantum physics, it is all about actually ensuring that you're making more money all the time, investing into the next thing that you actually do with the money, not just staying still. Sugar had a fantastic thing, and he started selling car aerials, and he is absolutely right. I mean, he's very funny. He's nothing like the television personality. He's very, very funny. He's very good. All his staff have been with him for many, many years, gets great loyalty. But he's just incredibly practical. He just makes 100 decisions a day based on common sense, if you like, all the way through. And the thing he did was when he started selling car aerials, he felt that if he could make his money in 3 days of selling car aerials, then that would give him a couple of days' money to invest in new stock in other products as well, yeah, that he could actually start building from. And honestly, that's the way he's approached anything. He's had his mistakes, like every business owner, made some huge mistakes, which he realizes. But it's actually a very simple business, is running your own business. So I spent right through to 2004 spending a lot of time in government, lovely places like where Meghan and Prince Harry are getting married, which is Windsor Castle. They've got something called St. George's House, and all the great and the good are invited there for Chatham House rules. No kind of, no information goes out. Looking at ways of improving things for people starting up and moving business. And up to 2004, we were very successful, and I think Paul and Nigel will agree with that. We actually were making sure that nearly everybody in Britain had access to really good help to start up their own business. And that's why the heroes of mine are people like Paul, and they're the people you need to actually talk to, because you can't know it all from the beginning, and it's very important. Unfortunately, in 2004, I also realized that there were a lot of other things, like one of the campaigns I've been running for 20 years, like Pay in 30 Days, that were killing businesses faster than the know-how that they were actually getting. In other words, you may have seen that Carillion, if you like, has just gone bust. You know, its standard terms and conditions were 120 days. You know, there are a huge number of large corporate companies backed by the governments that are actually making money out of us delivering the products and services somewhere in the chain, if you like, yeah, and actually them being able to sell it or do something with it and then invest the money on stock markets and around the world and various things like that. So I realized that there are actually more important things in many ways to help our survival than just the know-how. But I wrote a paper called There Is Another Way, and it was implemented from 2001 to 2004, right throughout the UK, to try and help people actually have a better chance of starting and running a business. Unfortunately, and that's one of the reasons I'm doing these talks, doesn't exist anymore. In 2004, the government actually withdrew all the money from the social enterprise that I'd founded to do all of this work. I ended up in boxing everything up and making 12 staff redundant, and it was a tough place to be. And it shows that build lots of multiple income streams, because one big income stream can leave you in problem. But the problem with it was that government policy changed to look for high growth startups, mainly in tech industries, and getting businesses with over 10 employees, existing businesses, to grow. And our kind of stuff wasn't there. So I then set about with halfway in the government tent and halfway out to start writing. And because a lot of my friends were still receiving government money, I began to write satires, humorous books, so that people would think it's, you know, just a bit of fun, if you like, and fictional, but actually including all these tips that I've been giving you. And at the 18th anniversary in 2004 of our own business, because I was still keeping that going, I wrote Buzzing with the Entrepreneurs, which later became 2 other books and various things for all our clients. And we had a big party at the Cafe Royal. So again, I had to start completely from scratch. And as far as this, trying to help you, it was only in 2005 when I saw this presentation by a chap called James Bellini that I realized I couldn't just give in on what can we do to help each other as micro business owners survive and thrive. And that was because of that. And of course it's all come true, hasn't it, with your Ubers and your 0 hours contracts and your everything has come true. 50% of people could be by 2020. It's 1 in 6 now, but 50% could actually be either in fairly unsecure part-time work or whatever. They wouldn't necessarily think of themselves as self-employed or self-employed. Yeah? And that is the way that they'll actually earn the money. The large corporates are in meltdown regarding employees, and so I realized that we had to look to the future. What skills, what know-how, what do we need to do? How can we get what we call the power of plenty how can we collaborate with each other? And that's part of the thinking, is to realize that if you can all make sure before you go, introduce yourself to as many people possible. Our competition is not us. It's the large corporates and it's government that are our competition. If we can help each other, because the majority of people aren't going to take on staff now, they're just self-employed. But if they can work with each other with the different skills, if they can learn from each other about new customers, that's what we should be doing. So if one thing other than it's collaborating so that we can handle the future, because a lot of those future things are like big platforms, like if anybody has done consultancy, we've got some consultants, haven't we? One of the biggest difficulties is that so many people have become self-employed, and there are platforms like freelancer.com and People Per Hour, even Fiverr for design. Anybody a designer? You know, you can, I mean, I use Fiverr quite a lot. I shouldn't really, but Fiverr will give me a logo for a Fiverr. You know, professional designers are on all of these platforms getting very small amounts of money for their fantastic skill in various things. So we need to work together to create value and work together to do things. I mean, obviously, the larger companies with things like blockchain and cryptocurrencies based on blockchain will be doing their kind of thing. Facebook will be altering its algorithms. So one time it's, you know, I've got a VA that spends her time actually doing Facebook advertising for me, which, you know, for one of my other businesses, which I find quite successful. A lot of restaurants find Facebook better than TripAdvisor, for example, and things. A lot of people in the fashion business, I know people that are running fashion things, and they just put photographs on Facebook, and word of mouth actually gets around. So, but these platforms are being controlled by other people, if you like. Sometimes they'll work for you, sometimes they won't. But if we have our collective know-how of what's actually working at a particular time, then we're able to deal with it. And I did put in the cash situation, because it's also a matter of thinking about how you're going to get paid. There are 600 people in the innovation department of one of the largest accountants in the world, just actually looking at ways where payment is through artificial intelligence, basically. So people will actually be able to put in PIN numbers in the, it'll recognize you. And if you've got to pay anything, I mean, Amazon have just opened a massive store, as you know, where you actually go in, you get all the stuff, and you walk out because it's looked at your retina and they've got your PayPal thing. Then they've actually, whatever you've got in your bag has actually been done. And there are lots of people working on these cash things to make sure that the technology is in their court, if you like. And we have to think, even down to the fact is, how would our customers prefer to pay? You might actually find that there's a whole generation of people, in actual fact, you'll probably find that 25% of people might like to pay by cash. And you actually just got an advantage suddenly in going against the grain with what these large corporates are going. So get together on these kind of things. It's like vertical farming. I didn't realize how low cost things like hydroponic. I guess that's what they'll do with all the driverless cars and things with the underground and multi-story car parks. They'll put vertical farms in them or something. But I didn't realize how low cost hydroponic farming, growing things through hydroponics in city centres, how low cost it is. So I was talking to a micro business owner the other week. So there are lots of ways that you can use empty spaces, but you need this intelligence that comes from talking to other people on the ground rather than listening to the messages from the large corporates. Does that make sense? So a chap called Edward Ciroli, Ernesto Ciroli, who was probably regarded as my hero. As you can see, I'm with him there just a couple of years ago. And he has got a YouTube video that you can watch. It's just called Shut Up and Listen. And he actually felt that the majority of advice, and he did something about it, has been very successful all over the world, that is given to startups and existing business owners, micro-business owners, is actually patronizing, paternalistic, and wrong. It assumes that large companies can do things better, that professionally trained managers and leaders know best, that high quality. And he said those rules just don't work with us running our own businesses, if you like. And he uses the example of in Africa, Tanzania, I think it was, and from the Italian government, they got everybody to grow on this lovely fertile land all of these Italian tomatoes, what they call them, anyway. But all of these Italian tomatoes, and they grew all of these kind of, and absolutely, and they became big and ripe and fantastic because they were helping them, sustainable ecosystem, grow tomatoes and various things. And then one night came a herd of hippos and ate a lot of them. And they said to the local business people and local people, why didn't you tell us? And they said, you never asked. And it is about asking questions. If there's one thing I want you to take away, and one thing I want you to do in the break, it's be curious. Ask questions all the time. Our intelligence of what's working and is not working, what will work, is far superior to a lot of it. But you do need helpers. Because you're concentrating on two things, customers and cash flow, then that's why I always say bookkeepers are often your best friend, yeah? Because they allow you to actually, and they've got lots of other clients so they can help you with money matters as well because they know all this kind, but it gives you time to spend time on customers and cash flow. We've got some marketing help there, if you like. You can't be expected to learn all these things to the degree that some other people are, but as long as you can concentrate on delighting your customers, which is something we can do and these large corporates can't do, and getting referrals and managing the cash flow, we're okay. Anyway, that revolving door said I'd eventually had enough of it. I didn't want anything more to do with government. I just felt we're wasting our time. It was something called the Ethnic Minority Business Task Force. You might recognise some people in there, but one of them is Lord Mandelson. Another one is James Kahn, that you may remember. And I was on that for 2 years, trying to help improve startups in ethnic minority business communities. And at the end of the 2 years, because our recommendations didn't fit with the policy government wanted to implement, none of it actually happened. So you can see I'm not normally retiring. That's another thing that I'm still on to this day, my hat on the left there. So that's another group that I am normally on, but on that top group, I'm hidden right at the back there. I was so ashamed of the fact that we'd let down all of these people by all that work. So I decided to go to a much more pleasant office for a year and start some new businesses. So I went to Malta. And it was absolutely fantastic, and I reworked Stripping for Freedom into Freedom from Bosses Forever. The reason I had to rework Stripping for Freedom, this satirical, funny book, if you remember, was because people just didn't believe that Leonora Sekulit-Hertz, the narrator and author of the book, didn't exist. Sekulit-Hertz, as she's called now, because she's got a single celebrity name like Cher and Beyonce and Rihanna and various things. But so I had to rewrite it to actually make sure that everybody got the joke. I wrote a novel, Loose Cannon. I wrote a number of things, but I came back with test trading for 12 months and this wonderful woman called Tina Burden to create the At Microbiz Matters movement, whereby we could all help each other without having to give our contact details, without having to join anything as a member. It was as informal as that. I do recommend, by the way, that some of the business membership organisations are a good idea. I am a bit like Alan Sugar, who says that don't spend all your time schmoozing, and by that he means going to networking meetings and various things that, you know, because time spent finding out what new customers want is much better time spent. But I do believe that in terms of community of other business owners, that some of the business membership organisations are good in saving you time with things like regulations and, you know, the things that that you're dealing with. So I do think it's important, but this is a movement. So we campaign for Pay in 30 days. We actually say that all of us should make sure that we maximise the amount of money we spend in our shopping or any budget from other people like us, rather than giving it to the corporates, and we call that the Indy 25er. Most importantly, we actually believe that we have combined the power of plenty, and we can actually learn from each other and help each other. So we have our annual day, but all through the time, we're actually ensuring that we're all helping each other. And it's just as informal as you like. So do have a look at it. But in this local community, as soon as I finish, try and talk to as many people as you like, ask questions, and actually make people that you can ring up or talk to in the future, if you like, about things that are important. And just a few things is that the chap on the right is actually wealthier, a school friend of mine, than the DeVos family, and he's a Brit. He went to my school as well. But he runs his massive chemicals empire called INEOS, exactly the same as we run a micro-business. With all these factories over the world, he doesn't have an open door policy of trying to control everybody or everything. He has 9 people that he trusts implicitly. 2 of them are his sons. You know, this is the difference between, you know, that he absolutely trusts implicitly with integrity on everything, and he meets with them at their various locations, and they all meet together as a group very, very regularly. You run it as a micro-biz. It's the largest. He buys plants from BP and various other people, and he makes them more successful. Alex Ferguson, that's Tina Bowden, who I founded Microbiz Matters on the front right, and I wrote a piece that won a competition with LinkedIn, and the prize was to spend time with Sir Alex Ferguson. I found from that he actually runs a football team, very much like a microbiz owner actually runs it. And one of the things he talks about is the fact that the way he did it was Carrington, the training ground. Because like a microbusiness owner, a successful microbusiness owner is one that is practice, 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 do it, do it, do it, learn from it, learn from it, learn from it. He made sure the Carrington ground had no interruptions. He said it was an amazing training ground. It's the most peaceful place. The security was huge, but it was just him and the players. Practice, 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 practice. No interruptions, no distractions, no mobile phones, no social media, no press. Yeah, does that make sense? He ran it just the way a successful micro business owner would do. And lastly, Penny Power there, she created something called E-Cademy, absolutely massive. Unfortunately, along came LinkedIn. LinkedIn took all of E-Cademy's members, hundreds of thousands around the world. It collapsed completely. And so even these mega giant corporates, if you like, they'll be looking around their shoulders for somebody else that's going to take away their income streams in the past. And what Penny found out from it, which I think is terribly important, and because it is our advantage, is that interpersonal is where delight and happiness, etc., comes from, not that internet membership, social media world. And so one of the things that she does that I agree with, and she helps on Microbiz Matters Day, is helps business owners in communities to just collaborate more, just spend more time with each other, just pop out from home for a cup of coffee where you know that there are going to be another 6 business owners just for an hour. Because that's our advantage, that's where we'll get the customers, that's where we'll get the delight from. So she says, yeah, it's good for our businesses and our souls to maximize the amount of interpersonal time as a microbiz owner. And those big people would agree with it. Here's just a few people that I deal with day to day that you've not heard of. I've mentioned Tina Bowden before. She's been running her own businesses for 30 years. She's had about 20 businesses, I would think, during that 30 years, which is a good example of thinking that whatever you're starting up now isn't necessarily what you'll be doing. I always say it's a bit like prizing open a door and getting into this enterprise zone, I call it. Into this zone where you're actually running your own business, where the only important thing is a bit like Alan Sugar, is doing the same things that are the good things to do, every single day that will actually help you delight, get new customers and various things. But you will find other customers. On the right-hand side is a lady called, on the left-hand down picture is Michelle Durrell. She was famous on Question Time a couple of years ago, and I rang her up because she gave Amber Rudderill going over about the benefit system and universal credit and all the various things. And she, as a working mum, created Shell's nail bar in her front room, so a nail design bar. It's absolutely beautiful. Works incredibly hard, but the confidence she's built up by eventually getting into profit after 3 years with her nail bar has now made her actually, she's up for election for the next Parliament. And it's amazing what if you are with people, if you are delighting customers, what fantastic, you will love your business because you're creating such happiness. But what that does for your confidence, well, that's an example. And Jules is another example. Lady on the left of that picture, she's got a high-tech, high IT kind of business, but she actually developed, like Tina's done many things, olive oil, all sorts of things, she actually developed something that she loved more, which was gemstone jewelry, kind of making gemstone jewelry kind of things. She keeps the IT income streams coming in because that allows us to do more and more and build the gemstone jewelry kind of thing. So it's about actually doing, and my heroine on the top is my business partner of 32 years now, Claire. And basically, she's always put me right regarding what I call value for money. Because I'm rather naive about these kind of things. And the way kind of she explained it to me is the fact that I'm always charmed by the snakes. Yeah, and those are the things that are going to take me down, but they look very friendly on this snakes and ladders board, don't they? Yeah, whereas in actual fact you should be choosing very carefully the ladder holders, the ones that can actually aren't selling you anything at all. Yeah, they're the ones that are just have got the know-how to be able to give you some information that you can use. But if you take all the different things that were sold, you know, from cars to pensions to software to this, a lot of it looks as though I must have that, yeah, in order to run my business. Whereas what you should be looking for is the people that are climbing the ladders that can give you some know-how and knowledge. And that's what Claire has done all the time in my business. And every time we've been ripped off and failed, it's because of that. So, futuristic lesson number 1 is choose carefully, ask a business owner. And particularly if you can ask business owners that understand the mentality of the customers that you might actually be serving. Choose ladder holders, not snake charmers. And money and customers matter as much as mindset. This next one is the Isle of Wight Festival in 1970, and basically I was there, and there were 600,000 people went on the Isle of Wight. I was kind of like 17. The interesting thing about it was, although the Who on the right, and Jimi Hendrix, whose last concert it was, Jim Morrison with the Doors, whose last concert it was, that everybody of the 600,000 people was there by universal recognition. The acoustic acts, John B. Sebastian, Joni Mitchell, and the number 1 success of that 7 days that were on the Isle of Wight Festival was a chap called Herbert Gorey, aka Tiny Tim. And he actually came on just with his, and he sang in a tiptoe through the, you know, it was this absolutely ridiculous. And he couldn't really play the ukulele either, but he was a curator. He loved this vaudevillian music. And he got it absolutely right. He opened with a song about high, which had originally been written in the 1920s about being high in love. But everybody was high on other things in that 600,000. And he actually finished with singing "They'll Always Be in England" through a megaphone. And that proved to me more than anything else, and he was actually one of the highest paid performers for many years after that gig. You're constantly, even if it's somebody else's crowd, building your crowd. You've got to be thinking all the time of building your crowd of fans. Not just people that, like with a corporate, like going into a McDonald's or various things, but people that only want to buy from you, that only want to see from you, that the only acoustic act that will make them laugh as much is, yeah, that it's so unique. And just to give you an example there, my inspiration is a woman called Kanya King, MBE, and Kanya King founded the MOBO Awards. And basically she remortgaged her house because she wanted to do something for black culture. And she wanted to do something for all the fantastic rappers and hip-hop music and urban music that was around that nobody was recognizing in the mainstream media. cut a long story short, but because of that belief in actually doing something good, she was able, for the very first MOBO Awards, which there wasn't a budget for, there wasn't any money, she was able to persuade some stellar American performers like Lionel Richie at the time and various things to come over to England, and that meant that the camera people actually wanted to televise it, and that started the recognition of all of the people. So if you believe in something really good that's actually going to make a difference, there will be some other people that you can influence enough. Charlie Mullins, who's our kind of micro-business czar. Has anybody heard of Charlie Mullins? And he's a multi-millionaire. He hosted the third Microbiz Matters Day. Multi-millionaire. You wouldn't believe he's the same age as me, but he says it costs money to look that good. The thing about him is that he built that fan base out of celebrities. The other thing is that he was 15, 20 years into his business, that he actually, to his plumbing business, that he actually found the formula to actually make a massive success. And one of the things he did was he actually nearly went bust because of a bank lending himself some money. And so he actually made sure that the estimating of the job was so perfect that they could actually tell the customer how much that job would cost before the plumber got into the house, and that the plumber had to be paid by the time he left the house. That's positive cash flow. But because his plumbers were providing the best service, the best uniforms, the best fans, it was funny, it was good, all the celebrities and rich people, because he's the highest price, recommended him to their friends, because it's somebody coming into your house. Yeah, a Pimlico plumber, and now they're in all the building trades, roofing, gas, heating, everything. If a work person comes into their house, then they aren't allowed to knock on the door till exactly the time that they've told the person, and they must complete the job in exactly the time that they've actually said. No cups of tea, nothing. And you can understand why, can't you? From prime ministers to, you know, the reception of Pimlico plumbers is just all the most famous people in Britain that you can actually think of. And they're all the ones that tell their friends that actually, so everybody wants, and he says he won't move out of London because there's a lot of work in London from people telling other people to work. But that's about crowd building. Be so unique, however you do it. Things that you wear, business cards, you know, business cards are totally underestimated. You know, I see some brilliant business cards, a friend that runs a chocolate, as you can imagine, but her business card's made out of chocolate. You know, it's somebody doing organic stuff actually has a business plan, business card that you can actually put in soil and it will grow. All of these things, but people remember it's your business, it's your unique. And my example there is the fact that I've got many friends in cafes and various licensed establishments as well that I keep in touch with and I go and see every week. One of them has just followed like Costas and all the various things with like a loyalty card, 10 coffees or 6 coffees and you get 1 free and various things, because he thinks that's how you should run a coffee shop. Another one, yeah, has actually made sure that there's no Wi-Fi in there. Yeah, there's none of the things that the large want, and because they're there every day, they say, if it's one of our other members of staff, just say to them the secret word. Let's say it was magic or whatever. So all the regulars, yeah, feel almost part of something absolutely fantastic, and they get a 30% discount on everything for that secret word. Total customer life. But the reason is it's on everything, because they're as interested in selling the food as and anything in their shop. So be unique, build those income streams, but always think of it as a new one. So for example, before Charlie goes into a new area of the building trades, he tests it out as to whether the market, whether his little model, whether the work, he can get the type of work people that can provide the right kind of service. Always test out new income streams first, but build as many as you can for the rainy days. Lastly, the Bertie and Gertie are with Sway, one of the rappers, the award-winning rapper. He brought a crew into the studio that I was doing the interviews in. I was a bit upset at my uncool appearance at it. But for example, he actually realized that in terms of being unique, that he was not only a multi-award-winning hip-hop star, but the thing he actually loved doing was spotting new talent. The other thing he actually really enjoyed doing was people not recognizing him and him selling them his vinyl and his CDs and various things like that. He's a collaborator. He's an absolutely brilliant collaborator. And basically, one of the talents he discovered and is now promoted elsewhere is a guy called Ed Sheeran. And there are many others, Tiny Temper and all these people. And that's because he knew that was a talent he had. If you can find something that you've got a talent you have, that can be another income. Is this making sense? That can be another income stream. You might be doing something else that is, you said earlier, is the bread and butter, didn't you? Or you might be doing something that brings in that bread and butter. But look for other income streams that are really showing your uniqueness and your talent as well. Chris Percival, first aid and various things. He's a paramedic. He started his first business at 14. He's now 27. He's been to every single Microbiz Matters Day. He's now got 3,000 staff around the world. He thought his business would be in paramedic training, in books, in manuals, and all sorts of things. It has proven to be in ambulances, fully kitted out with paramedic ambulances being sold not just for big events like Formula One races, but also to the national health, to countries around the world. And it all started off when he was willing to ask his aunt and uncle, who own 40% of this 50 or 60 million pound business now, that he's got 26, to lend him the money to kit out one of their old cars as an ambulance. And he tested the water with one ambulance and realized that he could actually do something. But the important thing is, why has it been successful? Why has it not been what he wanted to do? He says it's because I am a paramedic. I talk like a paramedic. I know what actually matters to the people in that stadium, in that customer. He gets other people to write the bids and the tenders and the contracts and various things, but he deals with the people because he's a paramedic. And the other one was Tim Campbell, the very first Apprentice winner that goes full circle. And he's always said to me, the only way you often can make ends meet sometimes is by taking a part-time job or something that you don't want to do necessarily to get you over. But the most important thing is staying in the enterprise zone. Does that make sense? You know, staying, keeping your business going, opportunities will come. And I finished really, but I would like to just say two things in the finality of it all. One is that if you think I have been anti-American, I did actually model myself for a while. You probably noticed, but I have grown longer hair since. I did actually model myself for a while on George Clooney, because I thought he would be the next president of the United States, especially when he married that human rights lawyer and everything. So as you can see, there's a striking resemblance between me and George. He always said that when he was asked why he didn't stand, he said, well, I've done too many parties, I've done too many things, and I've bombed in too many films. And they said, well, you know, don't you feel really bad about being a failure in all those films? They said, that's not being a failure. The only failure is in not trying. And that's the most important thing about us in our businesses, is to keep trying. J.K. Rowling, I'm a massive fan of, not because of Harry Potter and various things, because she was at rock bottom, clinical depression, absolutely anything. And people quote her line about, you know, people can fulfill their dream. Her dream wasn't to make lots of money, it never has been. She did this most wonderful speech to the Harvard graduates, actually telling them about humility and about the fact that they're in privileged positions and helping the human race in the future and various things like that. But her dream was to write. She always wanted to be a writer. And it was the only thing that she had total confidence in, because everything else she had no confidence in at all, that she could actually write. So that's another thing. Stick to the things that are really important, if you like, that you want to do. Belief is very important if that's converted into something you're actually doing. I met Charlie Mullen's chauffeur, and he said, and this is the Stoic and Albert Ellis view of the world, and he was parking on these red lines in Charlie's, you know, Bentley in the middle of London, and I said, you can't do that, surely, Eric. He said, oh, what can they do to me at my age? And basically, there's something about freeing yourself out from what Ellis calls masturbation. I must do this, I must do that, I must whatever. And actually just react in the best possible way you can to each circumstance that comes up in your business, and learn from the doing each time is a good way to go. So I'll leave you with that. You rock. There hasn't been any magic in it, but I do believe that starting and running your own micro business is magic. It's the best job in the world. Thank you very much.